Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive.
Great to be here.
Today, we're plunging into a topic that touches nearly every one of us. Relationships, personal fulfillment, and the often unspoken pressures society places on us. To live a certain kind of life, especially if you're a woman.
Definitely.
Think about it. How often do we see narratives, maybe in movies, social media, or even just, around the family dinner table?
All the time.
Narratives that dictate what a successful life or partnership should look like.
Right. There's this blueprint.
Exactly. And what if, just maybe, true happiness lies in completely defying those very expectations?
It's a powerful question, isn't it? And one that resonates deeply because that idea, that preset blueprint for happiness, particularly for women, it can be incredibly limiting.
And frankly, exhausting.
Yeah, exhausting to try and fit into.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
So our mission today is to unpack exactly that. We're diving into a truly fascinating conversation, one that challenges a lot of those traditional narratives head on. Our source material is an in-depth, incredibly candid interview with a prominent public figure. Her reflections offer profound insights into independence, trauma, and, crucially, redefining personal success on her own terms.
It's really quite remarkable, the level of honesty.
It is. So we're going to extract the core insights, compare different perspectives, and really see what it means to live authentically in a world just teeming with expectations. Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
All right, so to truly understand where this person is coming from, we have to go, all the way back to her beginnings.
Yeah, the foundation.
She grew up on a farm in South Africa, which, on the surface might sound kind of idyllic.
Right, you picture rolling hills.
Exactly. But her childhood was far from it. We're talking about an environment marked by significant alcoholism on both sides of her family.
Which, understandably, created this deep sense of shame for her as a child.
A home filled with inconsistency, unpredictability. That's the key, I think.
Absolutely. And what's particularly insightful here is the ripple effect of that kind of environment on a young, developing person. She describes creating an alter ego,
Yeah.
a carefully constructed facade designed to project this image of a happy house, implying a family that was, quote, good, happy people.
This masking behavior, as she reveals, was utterly exhausting.
Yeah.
A constant performance.
You can imagine.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can really empathize with that as a child, especially in those formative years. High school, maybe?
Oh, definitely.
The desire for social currency, for belonging, it's just so strong.
It really is.
You feel like your family's actions, their circumstances,
Yeah.
somehow reflect directly on you, even if you're doing nothing wrong.
Yeah, it's like their problems become your secret shame.
Exactly. It's that immense pressure to uphold a narrative, to pretend everything is fine when internally it's anything but stable or peaceful.
Precisely. She talks about the sheer exhaustion of walking through the door at home and facing the reality of she put it as a miserable situation.
Right.
After spending the entire day maintaining that public illusion, she describes carrying all of that weight, feeling like somehow her parents' actions, their struggles, were her responsibility to hide, or maybe even rectify.
That consistent inconsistency, that unpredictability, day in, day out, that was deeply impactful.
Arguably more so, she suggests, than any single traumatic event that occurred later, because it fundamentally shaped her sense of safety, her sense of self.
That really shifts the perspective, doesn't it?
It does.
It's not just the big catastrophic moments, but the constant, everyday, instability that truly leaves a lasting mark. It forces a child to adapt in these profound ways.
And what's truly poignant is her admiration for other girls she knew. She mentioned a Charlene in lower school, a Marlis in high school.
Yeah, I remember that part.
She describes them as, and I quote, authentically, truthfully being who not only they are, but also living the truth of their circumstance at home.
Wow.
She admired their confidence, their openness, their honesty. They weren't walking on eggshells.
That raises such an important question, right? What does it take to truly live one's truth, especially when your home life is challenging? And how early do we start forming these incredibly complex coping mechanisms?
Yeah, these masks.
For those of you listening, can you relate? Masking parts of your life, especially when you were younger, to fit in or protect some kind of perceived image.
It's a very common human experience, I think, though the degree varies wildly, of course.
For sure.
But for her, it was compounded by significant trauma and this constant inconsistency, living at the whim of an alcoholic parent, never knowing what she was walking into each day.
That instability.
Yeah, that instability, she emphasizes, was the bedrock of her coping mechanisms. And because she couldn't rely on her immediate environment for stability, she developed this incredible internal engine vision for self-sufficiency.
Which kicks us right to her early independence then.
Exactly.
At just 19, her mother bought her a one-way ticket to L.A.
19.
Yeah. No money on the credit card, essentially undocumented. She arrives with nothing, nobody.
It's quite the image.
Modeling became her waitressing job, as she put it, her means of survival. A way to put food on the table, keep a roof over her head. It was a stark, almost brutal entry into adult life.
And this is such a pivotal moment in shaping her future. She vividly recalls the feeling of complete freedom, that's her phrase, when she cashed her first significant paycheck.
How much was it again?
A hefty $75,000.
Wow.
She remembers what she wore, how she felt, how she walked to her car after that transaction. It was, for her, a feeling she never forgot.
I bet.
And crucially, never wanted to lose. This wasn't just about the money, It was about agency, autonomy, things she hadn't truly experienced before.
You can totally imagine that first taste of real financial independence after such a challenging, inconsistent upbringing. It must have been incredibly liberating.
Absolutely. It instilled in her this deep appreciation for self-reliance and the fundamental value of freedom.
It set a precedent, a baseline.
Indeed. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, you think about how such early exposure to hardship and the necessity of self-reliance shapes a person's priorities, their resilience.
Especially when facing societal pressures later on.
Exactly. For her, that freedom became a non-negotiable, a core value that informs so many of her choices, including those around relationships and family structure.
It wasn't just a fleeting moment then.
No, it was foundational. It embedded the importance of self-sufficiency deep within her. This wasn't just about escaping poverty. It was about forging a new identity built on personal agency, a direct counterpoint to the instability of her youth.
Okay, so she carries this deep desire for freedom, for authenticity, born from her youth into her adult life. But then relationships happen.
Right, and as she moved into adult relationships, she admits she found herself repeating those childhood patterns.
How so?
She used the phrase walking on eggshells again, constantly trying to protect ego, protect embarrassment for a partner because of their behavior.
And feeling like somehow their actions reflected badly on her.
Yes. It sounds incredibly familiar to her childhood coping mechanisms, doesn't it?
It really does. That childhood alter ego, that facade of the happy house.
It was her first deep dive into walking on eggshells, wasn't it? Meticulously managing others' perceptions just to feel safe.
So when she entered adult relationships, it was almost instinctual.
Seems like it. Readopting those same protective yet ultimately self-erasing behaviors, trying to manage her partner's ego just as she once managed her family's image.
This is a classic manifestation of codependency, isn't it?
Textbook, really. Where her own sense of self-worth became entangled with managing another's image, a pattern learned in childhood to cope with her family's issues.
And she talks about entering therapy specifically to save a failing relationship.
With a narcissistic boyfriend, as she described him, who predictably blamed her, told her, "You're the problem."
Which, for context, is typical, right? Narcissistic individuals often struggle with empathy, project their own issues onto others.
Exactly. And here's where it gets particularly profound. She describes how this damaged woman narrative was constantly thrown in her face.
Because everyone knew about her traumatic past.
Right. So she went to therapy with the intention of fixing the relationship, but the irony is, and these are her words, she ended up saving myself.
Wow. The external narrative was being used against her, but therapy helped her reclaim her own story.
And what's fascinating here is how often that happens, right? We seek help for one specific problem, maybe a relationship issue.
Yeah.
Only to uncover these deeper, more fundamental issues about ourselves and our ingrained patterns.
And the therapist's advice.
Stark, undeniably clear. You should leave him. And crucially, by the way, you're not the problem.
That external validation.
Oh, it can be absolutely life-changing, especially when your self-perception has been so distorted by an abusive dynamic or even just a really unhealthy one.
It's that moment where someone else holds up a mirror and you finally see clearly, not just the situation, but your own worth beyond it.
Exactly. But getting to that point, to even seek that professional help, wasn't easy for her.
Right. She talked about avoidance.
She admits to initially avoiding bringing up her past trauma in therapy. Why? Because she was a product of an environment where, as she said, therapy didn't exist in South Africa back then.
She didn't know anyone who had a therapist. The word alcoholic wasn't even used.
It simply wasn't part of the cultural lexicon or, the accepted coping mechanisms.
She describes it as a very toxic culture, where men were men,
implying that rigid masculinity that stifles emotional expression and accountability.
And where alcoholism wasn't discussed, let alone treated.
And her mother, she described her as a survivor, instilled this mentality of you wake up the next day and you get up and you continue. Just push through.
So for her, seeking therapy was so foreign. Even her friends weren't really in therapy at the time.
It wasn't just a personal aversion, it was a societal one, a cultural barrier.
And that really underscores the bravery required to break these generational cycles, doesn't it?
Absolutely. To step into something so unfamiliar, to confront decades of avoidance and cultural programming, that's a monumental act of self-care.
It raises an important question for all of us, I think. How do we, as individuals, as a society, work to normalize mental health discussions and access to therapy?
Especially in environments where it's historically been stigmatized or just absent.
It's not just about awareness, right? It's about dismantling those deep-seated cultural barriers that make people feel they have to suffer in silence.
It's about creating spaces where vulnerability isn't seen as weakness, but actually as a path to strength and healing.
Yeah. And in her journey, she points to another crucial element, one that often gets overlooked maybe in the broader conversation about relationships and healing.
What's that?
The power of female friendships.
Oh, yes. That's huge.
So true. She gives tremendous credit to her great friends, specifically her girlfriends, for helping her pull herself out of unhealthy relationships when she just couldn't see it clearly herself.
She acknowledges that sometimes when you're in the thick of it, your own perspective gets completely clouded. You need that outside view.
This speaks to the unique and, frankly, indispensable role of supportive friendships in personal growth, especially when navigating difficult or codependent romantic relationships.
And she articulates what it means to be a good girlfriend in those situations really well. It's about supporting without shaming.
Right. They don't hit you over the head with, "What are you doing?"
Or demand you leave immediately.
No. Instead, they offer a light opening, she called it, a gentle crack in the door for the person to step through when they're truly ready, not forcing them out.
It's like that idea of unconditional positive regard, that deep empathetic support that knows how to offer help without judgment or ultimatums.
That patience and unwavering support is so hard to maintain sometimes, especially when you see a friend hurting.
Yeah.
And yet it's so vital.
It's about being there in the darkness, even when it's frustrating, knowing that the person needs to come to the realization themselves on their own timeline. So what does this all mean for building healthy relationships? Not just romantically, but in our wider circle.
It emphasizes the importance of a strong, empathetic support system. People who understand how to offer help without judgment.
Think about your own support system, Who are those people in your life who have offered that kind of unwavering, non-judgmental support?
And how have they impacted your own growth? It's worth reflecting on.
Definitely.
Okay, so building on this foundation of self-awareness, healing, strong friendships, she made a truly profound and, importantly, conscious choice to be a single parent.
And this is key. It wasn't a default. It wasn't presented as, oh, this is what happened because a relationship failed.
No. Instead, she explicitly acknowledges her own incapability of being healthy in a relationship at the time she decided to become a mother.
That's incredibly self-aware.
She states very clearly, and I'm quoting her here, "I am raising my kids as a single mom because of definitely avoidance of things that I know I don't want, and also understanding who I am fully and being honest with who I am and what I can give right now."
This is such a mature decision. And it powerfully challenges that traditional narrative, doesn't it? The one that says single parenthood is always a less than ideal outcome or something to be pitied.
Absolutely. Instead, she presents it as an empowered choice, rooted in deep self-understanding and this desire to break the cycle of unhealthy relationship dynamics she witnessed and experienced.
What's fascinating here is the maturity and self-awareness required to make that call. Prioritizing the well-being and stability of our children above societal expectations for a traditional family unit.
And it wasn't about shunning men or relationships forever. It was about making a choice from a position of strength and self-knowledge at that time.
Exactly. And the advantages of this autonomy for her are undeniable. She describes the profound joy of her chosen path.
I remember this quote. It was so blunt. "Do you know how great it is to live exactly how I want to live, to experience motherhood exactly how I wanted to experience it?"
The relief is palpable.
She revels in the fact that she doesn't have to share them with somebody or run every thing by a guy.
Or Critically, co-parent with someone she doesn't want to be with. She's created this sanctuary of peace and control for her family.
That sense of freedom, that unburdened choice, it just comes through so strongly in her words.
And she offers that humorous yet incredibly illustrative anecdote about her kids saying, "Oh my God, Mom, I can't go to Sarah's house because, like, her father."
Right. And her response, "Oh my God, aren't you guys so happy we don't have to deal with that?"
It provides such a tangible, relatable example of the daily freedoms, the lack of conflict that she experiences in her single-parent household, in stark contrast to the complexities that can arise in blended families or unhappy two-parent homes.
It really paints a clear picture of the benefits for her. It worked for her situation and her needs.
It certainly does. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, think about it. How might a broader societal embrace of diverse family models, acknowledging the validity of a conscious choice for single parenthood, how might that impact mental health, societal structures?
Well, it could alleviate immense pressure, couldn't it? Especially the judgment on women to have a man. It could allow more individuals to pursue personal fulfillment, build family structures that genuinely work for them.
Instead of trying to force that square peg into a round hole based on outdated norms.
Right. And it raises that question. What happens to society if women feel pressured to need a man?
It can lead to unhappy households, definitely, stifled individual growth, a perpetuation of unhealthy relationship dynamics just to conform.
But, as you said, this path, while personally fulfilling for her, doesn't come without its disadvantages. Specifically, the judgment, the misconceptions from society.
No, it doesn't. She highlights the prevailing narratives thrown at single women, especially those in the public eye, you know the ones. Something must be wrong with her.
You can't keep a man.
Right. People, she notes, feel sorry for you somehow that you're missing out on love. It illustrates this deep-seated societal belief that a woman's fulfillment must come from a partnership.
And she points out the insidious labeling, especially in Hollywood. Single women being called a real bitch, a CT, or asked how crazy are you, just for being unpartnered.
It's pretty brutal, and it raises that important question. Why are societies so, well, triggered by women choosing independence, especially when it comes to family structures and relationship status?
What does it reveal about underlying anxieties? Maybe about female power, self-sufficiency.
It seems to stem from these ingrained patriarchal notions, doesn't it? Ones that traditionally tie a woman's worth and identity to her role within a conventional family unit, often as a subordinate partner.
It implies that a woman without a man is somehow incomplete or struggling, even if she is absolutely thriving.
And she powerfully contrasts her content single life with the reality of, quote, how many relationships do we know of these women in these households with these men who have lost their voice, who are not happy?
That's a compelling counter-narrative, isn't it? To the idea that partnership automatically equals happiness or fulfillment?
Absolutely. It underscores that the quality of a relationship or the choice to be without one matters far more than simply being partnered for partnership's sake.
Exactly. It's not anti-relationship.
Yeah.
It's pro-authenticity, pro-personal choice.
Which leads to her fascinating take on reconciling love and partnership. She emphatically states she doesn't miss love.
Why not?
Primarily due to the tremendous love she has for her children. That fills her cup, essentially.
And she even mentions having better intimacy.
Yeah, having the kind of sex I never had in my 20s or in my 30s while single, highlighting a newfound sexual liberation and agency.
So she's not missing like a relationship or the partnership that I think people think you miss.
Right. And what's fascinating here is how she challenges that monolithic definition of love and fulfillment.
How so?
She suggests that deep emotional connection, profound love, can be found abundantly outside of traditional romantic partnerships, within family, friendships. And furthermore, she implies that physical intimacy can be explored on one's own terms, with agency and personal satisfaction as priorities, unconstrained by the expectations or potential compromises of a committed relationship.
So true contentment might come from internal sources, self-knowledge, rather than external validation through a partner.
That seems to be her experience. She's found this profound peace and joy that isn't contingent on an external romantic connection.
Okay, so if she's not missing partnership in the conventional sense, what is her stance on long-term commitment? Does she want that?
She clarifies that, yes, she absolutely wants long-term commitment, but...
And she doesn't need to get married.
Exactly. There's a crucial distinction for her between the legal and social construct of marriage and the personal desire for a lasting, loving bond. The institution itself seems to carry baggage she'd rather avoid.
And her reluctance stems from?
a tremendous fear of not being able to get out of something, a fear she attributes directly to the work she's done on herself and her understanding of her past.
That inconsistent home life, feeling trapped in unhealthy dynamics.
It's clearly left a deep mark. She even jokes about California laws making common law marriage a reality after 7 years, which just highlights her awareness of how commitment, even informal, can feel legally and emotionally binding, almost trapping.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? How much our individual histories, particularly past traumas, inconsistent home lives, how much they shape our perceptions of commitment and freedom in adult relationships.
Yeah, making some shy away from traditional structures, even if they genuinely desire a lasting bond.
It's clear that her past experiences, especially feeling trapped or having to, plate others to keep the peace, have instilled this deep-seated aversion to anything that feels like entrapment.
Definitely.
But what about casual dating then? Is she doing that?
She expresses zero interest in dating men in the industry. She calls it not a smart thing for her personally.
Probably wise, given the intense public scrutiny and unique pressures of that world.
Yeah, likely. She admits to being on dating apps but doesn't actually use them. She prefers to rely on friends for introductions.
A more organic, curated approach.
Feels like it. And her critique of dating apps is pretty entertaining. She calls them a Fing clown show.
Huh. I think many people can relate.
Then she drops some seriously funny but also spot-on advice about what not to put in your profile.
Like what?
No Burning Man photos.
Okay.
No photos of you with other women. No selfie in your closet of your hand in a jean pocket.
That specific closet selfie.
And definitely no CEO claims that aren't real.
That's hilarious and so relatable, isn't it? Those dating app faux pas are almost universally recognized.
They really are. But amidst the humor, she also candidly shares a surprising personal experience.
Which was?
Having sex with a 26-year-old for the first time in her 40s and finding it really amazing.
Wow. That's quite open.
It is. And this is where it gets into redefining sexual pleasure, especially for women in midlife. It's a very open and, I think, empowering statement.
Yeah, it is.
What's fascinating here is the candid discussion about female orgasm and agency in the bedroom, directly challenging those traditional notions of female sexual passivity that have historically been so prevalent.
And she shares a crucial sex tip, right?
She does. Basically, don't do that, meaning don't just focus on pleasing males without considering your own pleasure.
That's a big one.
And she makes an interesting observation that women who come across as confident tend to also be in bed people who want to please males, suggesting this correlation between self-confidence and prioritizing male pleasure, sometimes at their own expense.
Interesting. So what's her advice?
It's simple yet profound. You're going to have better orgasms, and guess what? Your man's going to like that. They're going to have such a better time, too.
So it's mutually beneficial.
Exactly. This offers concrete advice on advocating for yourself in intimate settings, encouraging self-advocacy, a necessary shift in focus to personal satisfaction.
It's about taking ownership of your pleasure, and in doing so, enhancing the experience for everyone involved.
It's a powerful message about female empowerment in a very personal space, dismantling the idea that a woman's role is solely to satisfy her partner without reciprocal consideration. It really advocates for mutuality and self-respect.
Okay, so all this self-discovery, the therapy, the lessons from past relationships, the friendships, it all culminates in a very clear set of non-negotiables for her, right? Boundaries.
Absolutely. Unwavering boundaries. Drawing from her experiences of losing herself in relationships, she articulates her ultimate boundary, and I'm quoting her directly here. I will not lose myself.
They'll stop.
I will not make myself smaller, and I will not do things that are not authentically me for you to feel better about being in a relationship with me.
Wow. That is powerful.
It summarizes her entire journey, doesn't it? Self-discovery, recovery from codependency. It highlights the immense maturity gained from years of therapy and self-reflection, leading to this incredibly strong sense of personal boundaries.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is a universal lesson, right? In self-respect within any relationship dynamic, romantic or otherwise.
Definitely. It's about protecting your core self, understanding that a truly healthy relationship doesn't require you to diminish who you are.
And she backs this up with real-world examples, illustrating how these boundaries translate into dating scenarios, turning potential red flags into clear deal breakers.
Yeah, those are interesting. Like, if a guy says, I love you after 1 month.
What's her take?
She's okay saying it herself if she feels it, but she explicitly says she doesn't want to hear it from a guy that early. She wants to be chased.
Huh. So it highlights a playful yet strategic approach to dating. She's not just reacting, she's actively setting the terms and the pace.
Exactly. And her responses to other scenarios reinforce this unwavering commitment to her authentic self. Like if she caught a partner going through her phone.
That's a hard no, right?
A firm no, valuing trust, even with her own kids, she mentioned.
Okay. What about being cheated on?
She said she found out after the fact. Felt it, obviously, but it wasn't the reason for the breakup.
Interesting. What does that suggest?
It suggests maybe a focus on the larger health and authenticity of the relationship itself, rather than singular transgressions. Like, if the relationship was fundamentally unhealthy anyway, the cheating might just be a symptom of that larger problem.
Got it. And perhaps the most emphatic example was the cursing one.
Oh, yeah. If a man hated cursing and asked her to stop saying F,
Her response.
an emphatic impossible. She says, and again, direct quote here, "If I can't do that in front of my children, do you really think I'm going to do that for you? Go F yourself, and I don't even love you here."
Okay. That's about as clear as it gets.
That's a true non-negotiable, demonstrating her commitment to her authentic self, even if it's considered unconventional or impolite by others. It's a powerful declaration of, this is who I am, take it or leave it.
These anecdotes provide such concrete, vivid examples, don't they, of how her personal philosophy translates into real-world interactions and decision-making in relationships.
They powerfully reinforce the idea that knowing yourself deeply, having a clear understanding of your values and boundaries, it's absolutely crucial for navigating any relationship in a healthy way.
Without that self-awareness and resolve, it's just too easy to fall back into old patterns, people-pleasing, self-diminishment, all that stuff.
Exactly.
Okay, so moving beyond personal relationships for a moment, she touches on a deeply resonant issue for many women. The power imbalance, especially in professional settings.
Yes, that early audition experience she described.
Right. A director asked her to his house late on a Saturday night for an audition.
And her little voice, as she put it, knew this isn't right.
But she still went, which highlights the complex psychology of play, doesn't it? When confronted with that kind of situation, especially as a young woman trying to make her way in a competitive industry.
She eloquently describes how women often talk yourself out of this isn't weird, even when your instincts are screaming otherwise.
It's a common coping mechanism, maybe? Rationalizing or dismissing gut feelings in the face of perceived authority or opportunity.
And what's particularly powerful is her insistence that even an outspoken and strong personality like herself froze in that moment.
Right.
She emphasizes that being caught off guard and having your value instantly diminished causes women to freeze no matter who you are.
It's not a failing of character, she's saying.
No, it's a deeply ingrained physiological response to a sudden power dynamic shifting against you.
And she explicitly chose not to name the director, saying it's not because I'm protecting him, but he knows it's him.
And her statement, "You can't hurt me more than I hurt myself," about what happened that day, that speaks volumes, doesn't it? About the internal pain, the self-blame that often accompanies such experiences. Victims often internalize the violation.
I don't know, that really hits hard.
And this experience, she says, is universal for women across industries, regardless of their position on the totem pole of power and success.
And she articulates why it takes, in her words, 10 years or more to heal sometimes, because the trauma seeps into every single decision and interaction.
What's fascinating here is her call for community, for mutual support among women in acknowledging and processing these difficult experiences, rather than judging or questioning, why did it take so long to speak up?
It's such a powerful validation for any listener who has experienced similar situations, emphasizing that it's not your fault, and that healing has no timeline.
And that sharing these experiences, creating that community, can foster collective understanding and healing.
So looking ahead then, where does she see herself going?
She acknowledges she's still trying, still figuring it out. It's an ongoing process.
Which is relatable in itself.
Absolutely. Despite the challenges, the journey of self-discovery, she's excited for the next gorgeous decade, particularly regarding her work, which she describes as something she loves, something that doesn't feel like work.
And she wants to show her kids what that looks like to find something that you love. That's a powerful lesson in living passionately.
It really is. And she reflects on becoming an empty nester eventually, even playfully speculating about finding a relationship then. Maybe a sad man she'll catch in 6 years, just so she's not alone in her house.
So it implies that personal needs and desires evolve, There's no single right time for love or partnership.
Exactly. It's an ongoing journey of self-discovery and adaptation. Ultimately, her whole journey reinforces this core message. Your past doesn't define you,
But
but awareness of your childhood trauma, its impact, is absolutely key. With that self-awareness, you really can create your own path, forge your own version of what you want your life to be.
it's about agency, growth, and the courage to live authentically.
Precisely.
So what does this all mean for you, our listener? We've explored this idea that needing a man, or any partner for that matter, might be less about inherent necessity and more about deep-seated societal conditioning.
Yeah, those messages we absorb.
Charlize Theron's journey illuminates a path where radical self-awareness, fierce independence, and a profound love for oneself and one's chosen family.
Yeah.
Well, it can lead to a happiness that transcends conventional expectations.
She's demonstrated the advantages of choosing autonomy for her specific situation, and also highlighted the disadvantages, the judgments that come with defying those expectations.
So as you reflect on your own journey, on your own relationships, on the narratives you've been told, or what you should want or should be, maybe ask yourself, what truly brings you joy and fulfillment?
And are you brave enough to pursue it, even if it looks entirely different from what society expects?
It's really a challenge, isn't it? To define your own blueprint for a life well lived.
A profound one.